and welcome to WRPB and WRPB Studios. Okay, so I'm so jealous of the person sitting next to me. Her name is Jeanette Mazzareto.
Yes.
Did I get it right?
You did.
I had to get it out real quick because you know I'd screw it up. Okay, so here's the thing that really upsets me about my parents. They didn't push me to play piano. And that really bothers me because I think piano is an amazing thing. So tell me, what do you do? What's your company?
Music Lessons on the Treasure Coast has been in business for 8 years.
Wow, okay.
I teach piano, guitar, and voice. And I also teach a baby and toddler music class called Little Notes.
Okay, so I have a bunch of stuff in front of me that you guys can see. This stuff changes the whole scope of having children going into the cabinets and taking pots and pans and banging them, right?
That's true.
Because these make kind of nice sounds.
They do.
Okay, so why'd you get into this?
Well, I got into teaching music because I've been a musician my whole life. But I got into teaching a toddler class because I have 2 small children myself. Well, they're not so small anymore. They're 9 and 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they play piano?
They don't.
Do they not play because they don't want to?
They're artists.
Oh.
They're more into drawing.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
So I support that.
Well, the creative side of people is really interesting
It
because
is.
people don't get that, like someone who does pressure washing, that's a science and an art. People don't know that other people's art is not just music, pictures, or whatever. But I think if you can play the piano or keyboard, that makes me jealous. What's your favorite instrument?
Piano.
It is. Why?
Because it teaches children to read with both sides of their brain.
Okay, so do you have to know how to read music to play piano or keyboard?
Not necessarily. A lot of people play by ear, but I think it's more beneficial to play reading music, especially if you're a child, because you can use that for your future.
Is it hard to read music?
I didn't think it was hard to read music, but some people do think it's
I can
hard.
barely speak English.
It's definitely like learning another language.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go from the beginning, which is the kids. What ages?
We start at 3 months.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's almost like picking up a rattle, but they're used to holding.
It is, and I didn't bring them with me, but I have miniature versions of all the instruments ahead of you.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
There's a smaller version of this guitar?
There's smaller versions
I
of
mean, I'm only
everything.
5'2", that's looking big to me. So,
It's great because it gives the little ones opportunities to hold things in their hand, and that builds dexterity. when
yeah,
they're
without
little.
a doubt.
Yeah.
Instead of putting your feet in your mouth, like I did when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get these kids. So what's in front of me is, what age are we looking at for this kind of stuff?
Little Notes is ages 3 months through 3 years of age, and then after that I start piano lessons really young.
Okay, so like to pick up one like this guitar, what age? Because you're smaller than that, right?
I do have smaller ones than that. This age would be for like maybe a 2-year-old, perfect size for their hands. The smaller ones are for the baby hands. Of course, they can't pluck the strings yet, but mom can take their hand and show them how to do it. So,
Okay, so is it easier for them to learn when they start at that young age?
absolutely.
And are they excited about learning more if you start them at a young age?
Oh yeah, I think so. And it also builds a good relationship between me and the child, so that when we're ready to start piano lessons at 3, they're more eager to do it just because they like that one-on-one time with Miss Jeanette. Yeah.
Okay, so you start them at 3. Is it hard to control a 3-year-old to play the keyboard?
No, not really.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of them are not ready, so they'll stay in the Little Notes class for a little bit longer. But you know when they're ready, when they're kind of ready to do that one-on-one time, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so you've been in the industry a long time in a bunch of facets.
Yes.
Do you just teach keyboard and piano?
No, I also teach guitar and voice as well.
Okay, let's take voice out for a second. We were talking in the green room about guitar as
Yes.
compared to piano. So guitar, you're using one side of your brain.
Guitar is a very easy instrument to learn.
Is it really?
Yeah, I feel like the piano's much harder to learn. However, children under the age of, let's say, 9 really can't handle a guitar. They really need to be able to build calluses in their fingers, and unfortunately their fingers will bleed, you know, sometimes. So I always recommend children to be at least over the age of 10 before they start guitar. Piano's just way easier. They can get so much more accomplished.
It seems so hard for me to imagine this hand wanting to work with this hand. It doesn't work that well. And I mean, I'm a little guy. I don't know that my fingers are that big that I can cover, whatever I have to cover. Does that affect your playing ability?
I don't think so. Hand size really doesn't matter. Now, if you're going to be a concert pianist, and you want to have bigger hands so you can make those octave jumps, but I mean, really, hand size doesn't matter.
Okay. Piano, keyboard. They're different items,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Keyboard easy to learn?
Keyboard and piano are exactly the same to learn. However, I always tell people, do not purchase a piano in this day and age. Unfortunately, there aren't enough piano tuners around. Somebody came around and tuned my piano and broke it.
Oh, wow.
So I tell parents, just go ahead and purchase an inexpensive keyboard to start, and then just upgrade that keyboard as we go.
Well, I mean, I could be wrong, but the keyboards look so much smaller.
Some of them are small, but I have one that's a full size, so it's the same size as a piano.
Okay, so the keys are the same.
Yes.
And
they're weighted, so it's exactly like a piano.
Okay, so if someone is younger, like 10 or 11 years old, do you get a smaller one to start?
I tell everyone, get a really small, cheap one, just in case they spill juice or something on it. That way you don't get upset, and it gives them room to grow. So like for Christmas, if they've been in lessons for like a year, go ahead and splurge and get them something, more expensive than the first one.
And I know it's going to be different for every kid, and I love putting people on the spot. So who's easy to teach, girls or boys?
I think boys are easier to teach.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We don't listen to anything but.
Girls like to talk.
Okay.
And boys tend to be more studious and to listen to me more. The girls tend to get on my level and we start talking and stuff, and I have to keep going back to the lesson at hand. But boys are definitely more studious than the girls.
Do they think that, okay, so they come to you, let's go up in age to 13, 14, 15 years old. Do they want to play music from today's day and age, or do they still want to learn classical and stuff like that?
Well, we start off with a classical lesson book just to kind of get them into the routine. And then once they finish their first book, they're able to choose. So some of them choose today's music. Definitely the teenagers don't want to do, the classical stuff. So I give them that window to do so. They have that opportunity to choose it if they do.
I can play the Pink Panther. I learned that.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I can do that.
About Jaws. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, and I could play the beginning of Color My World by Chicago.
Oh, okay.
I learned how to play that.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
No, it's not. I'm 65. I know how to play Pink Panther and Color My World. It's not impressive at all, believe me. But the keyboard, and I think it's the keyboard that amazed me. And I told you the story. I had a friend who could play every instrument, but he played the keyboard, and I was so upset that my parents didn't teach me to play an instrument. I had a guitar at one point in time, but that lasted with my ADHD about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Guitar is a hard one. It's a hard one to learn, yeah. But for me, I learned the piano first, and I taught myself guitar in like a day.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So they come on at, let's say at the 13-year-old. Do they progress quick enough to do a recital type scenario?
13-year-olds progress very quickly.
Do they?
Yes. Oh, yeah. They'd be able to do a recital right away with only 3 months prep time. Somewhere more like a 7 or 8-year-old would need at least a year before they're able to do a recital.
Okay. Do kids come to you at 13 to start?
Yes.
Okay. Is it easier to deal with them than when they're 6 or 7?
No.
They're not, better
No, I feel like they're easier to deal with when they're young because their minds are more pliable. By the time you get them at 13, 14, I have a 15-year-old that just started with me. By the time you get them, they're already set in their ways. So you kind of have to take them back a notch, and some of them almost feel like I'm being babyish with them, but they need to learn the theory so they have the background to back up their instrument.
Well, you know the story. 15-year-old knows all the answers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can't teach them nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just how they are. And I hate to say it, but I think the boys are tougher in that aspect.
Well, when they get older, absolutely, yeah.
They'd rather... See, this is my opinions. A girl 13, 14, 15 probably has more patience to sit than a boy 13, 14. He wants to be out. He wants to... Well, times have changed. Now it's the cell phone and stuff. Keeping their attention focused Do you have kids like me? I'm not a kid anymore, but I wish I was. But that have like ADHD.
I have ADHD, so it makes it makes it very easy for me to keep things going and moving all the time.
Right.
I use a lot of misdirection. I do have most of my children are on the spectrum as well, so I
Okay.
have kids that are just trying to do a million things at once, and we kind of work it that way.
So, you guys who know me a long time know that spectrum, it doesn't really matter. I think kids that are on the spectrum are amazing.
Geniuses.
I have one of my editors is on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Back in Boca, I took a kid intern on the spectrum. He lost about over almost $1,100 worth of my stuff. Everybody said fire him.
Oh my
I
gosh.
didn't. I took him off that job. I let my editors edit, and then I gave him the stuff after it was edited. I gave him other stuff to do. Today he works for ESPN too.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you can't. Those are things you can't buy, and like for me, I'll be playing piano, but then oh look, a shiny object. Okay, do you have a lot of that?
I do.
Kids are like that today.
I do.
I mean,
And that's why it's so rewarding when they're able to get it done, you know, because they are that way. Most of them.
So you told, and we're getting to the top of time, but you told me that learning music is kind of important.
It's very important.
It's important because it opens the door for you to play any kind of music, because as long as you can read it, you can play it.
But it also helps with other things, like, for instance, math. Music is all math.
Is
It's
it
all
really?
math equations, yes.
I'll see.
Yeah, so when you're looking at a sheet of music and it tells you, like in the beginning, you'll see like two numbers, a 4 and a 4. That means that there's 4 beats in every measure. So that's how you look at a sheet of music like that. And it's pretty interesting, you know? It all breaks down
What's
to
the difference?
mathematics.
Okay, so most people don't know how I get, but when I'm in the car listening to a song, because most things are 4,
Mm-hmm, they are.
and I sit there with my finger and I count. Mm-hmm. And I try to find some that are 5, and somehow I break up a word to make it one more,
Yeah.
to make it a 5.
Yeah.
But is that standard for music?
Yeah, standard is 4/4 time.
Okay.
You'll also find a lot in the waltz time, the 3/4. So 1 2 3, 1 2 3.
Okay.
But those are the most two common times.
Sounds very difficult for me.
It's not.
Don't get
it's not
old,
too
guys,
bad.
because when you get old, everything seems so difficult. Okay. How do people find you? You have a website
I do. Music lessons on thetreasurecoast.com.
and a phone number?
772-834-0094.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you that I know, and it's really not that much, but when I was younger, my parents bought me a guitar, but they didn't get me a pro to teach me how to use it. So, like I always say, always use a pro. It's so important, because the money you spend, the $400 for a keyboard, and then you expect your kid to play it, they'll bang away at it for a week or two, and then not accomplishing anything, it'll go to waste. Always use a pro, because that's going to take them to where they need to be. They're going to learn where they need to be. How long, like, if, I'm just trying to think of the way to word it. How long does someone stay with you before they're able to play?
Each child and each person I teach is with me for a different amount of time. Sometimes they're with me for just a couple of months because it's not something that they want to continue with. But those that stay with me for years. So I've had some for the last 5, 6 years, some of them 8 years.
We spoke about the kids. What about seniors, older people?
Right now
I don't have 8 years.
Right now I just have children.
Okay.
So
Have you ever worked with anybody older?
I have.
'Cause
I have.
We're a nightmare.
No, it's not that. It's just that they don't stick to it. So, as far as, you know, like being able to get someone to pay in advance, they don't want to do that. They want to pay you lesson by lesson.
Okay.
And I just don't work like that. I want that month commitment from you, you know.
Okay, I can tell you now, I don't have 8 years to learn. Okay, I'm already older than dirt. I want to thank you for coming on. I think
you.
that's great that it gives kids some discipline and some focus. Everybody use a professional. Check her out, and we'll be right back.